Welcome back to another episode of the Slick Pivot Sessions. I'm Liz Ward, the UK's first pivot coach and founder of Slick Pivot, and this is the podcast where we dig, delve and deconstruct the journeys of people who have pivoted their businesses and careers. This episode was recorded while we're deep in lockdown during the coronavirus pandemic. We'd been locked down for around 4 weeks in the UK. The world has changed so much, and I know that many of you will be at a pivot point with your businesses and careers. You may or may not be feeling inspired creatively. You may or may not want to start something new. I wanted to pull together some positive pivot examples that are coming out of this pandemic. Examples of people who are doing things to make us smile without the pressure. Today, my guest is the brilliant Emma Gannon, the queen of pivoting. She wrote the Multi-Hyphen Method, a best-selling book, and has the #1 careers podcast, CTRL ALT DELETE. Emma's debut novel, Olive, is published in July this year. Emma woke up one morning just into lockdown and decided to start the Multi-Hyphen Book Club, a place where people could connect through a monthly book and be inspired by daily book recommendations. It's all on Instagram, and the book club has now over 6,000 members. In this Slick Pivot session, Emma and I explore how this creative idea was able to come together so quickly, why books genuinely save her in a time of need, and how connection is so important for us all right now. Emma was a brilliant guest, and we've both found it really interesting dissecting a project that has just been hatched, rather than looking at it with lots of hindsight. There are lots of lessons here around starting something new, following your creativity, and keeping things small and fun. I loved recording this episode, and if you enjoy it too, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review and a star rating. This really helps me grow the podcast and bring you amazing guests like Emma. Let's dive in. Emma, thank you so much for coming on the Slick Pivot Sessions.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm returning the honour of being a guest because you came on CTRL ALT DELETE and you were an amazing guest. So nice to return the favour.
Yeah, it was fabulous to talk about pivoting on CTRL ALT DELETE, and now to hear about your recent pivot. So you said that a few weeks ago you woke up one morning, like bolt upright, and you thought, okay, I've got to launch a virtual book club. Tell us about that moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to make me sound a little bit wacky and weird, but I wake up in the mornings sometimes and I feel like I have this kind of few minutes of clarity, or I have this kind of stillness before the day begins. And sometimes I just get these thoughts and I'm like, I don't know, I feel like they're coming to me for something. It's really weird. It makes me sound insane. But for example, like I'll wake up and be like, I need to call my mum, or I'll wake up and go, have I bought that birthday present for someone? But this time it was, you need to start a book club. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think I've been wanting to start one for a while, but it's one of those things where you get bogged down with bits of other work and more important work, and things that aren't as kind of, I don't know, you don't have as much room for a side hustle maybe when you're very busy. But my whole thing is making time for projects that you want to be passionate about. So I think during this pandemic where we're all readjusting and giving ourselves a bit more of a break and taking pause to reflect, I just felt like it was the perfect time.
So it was an idea that you kind of already had in your drawer of ideas, and now the conditions were right, I suppose, for it to come together.
And yeah, I mean, I did a piece of research, which sounds very proper, but I actually just did an Instagram poll recently, basically just saying, why do you follow me on Instagram? Because I didn't really know, and I always felt like Instagram was a very weird place for me because I'm a writer and a podcaster and things like that, and I don't really know what my place was like on a very, very visual platform, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So I always thought, like, why do people follow me? Because I'm either posting rubbish pictures of like what I'm wearing, or it's just very mismatched. So anyway, it was about 90% of people replied saying for your recommendations, and within that, books. So
wow,
I thought I'm gonna have to kind of use that information and actually deliver on that.
Yeah, and you love books, and this year, you're pivoting your writing career to launch your first fiction novel, which is exciting. So it's like you're naturally moving towards this this space of being, a thought leader in the book space, and the book club puts you right there. And so how did you go then from the idea to having now nearly 6,000 people in your book club?
Well, it's really interesting. So I love your work and what you do around pivoting, because I think I do pivot a lot, and I do it quite slowly, but also quite often. I think I'm kind of constantly pivoting. So in the space of a few years, I've kind of gone from, the podcast inspiring many conversations about work, that then turned into the Multi-Hyphen Method, which then has sort of turned into this newsletter that I do called The Hyphen, which is about sharing curious links and making people feel more curious about life. And then off the back of the Hyphen newsletter, I've now done the Hyphen Book Club, which kind of leads into Olive, my novel. So it's like, I think it's taken me years to work out how to piece bits of work together, but I'm very interested in how brands are formed and how brands are made. And I think looking at that, it all makes sense now, but while I was doing it, it seemed a bit random. And I think you kind of have to zoom out and really try and just piece together like what you are trying to achieve. And I think I've kind of managed to do that somehow.
And has your vision been evolving at each stage, or was there all the long term, 5 years ago, did you always see the vision of doing a fiction novel?
It's funny because when I wrote the Multi-Hyphen Method, I basically wrote that book because I needed a permission slip to say it was okay to pivot and change your mind and rebrand yourself and almost like reinvent yourself as much as you want. And I also think as women, we're often put in boxes very, very quickly. Whether you're a mother or whether you're a career woman or whether you're this, that, or the other. And we're just judged all the time and like put in a box. And I just wanted to write a book that said, you can try out lots of different things at once. So I knew I wanted to write a fiction book. I was absolutely terrified by the idea because I had that imposter syndrome of like, who do you think you are? You can't write novels. Stay in your lane type thing.
Yeah. Which is classic when anyone goes into any kind of new space, isn't it? That voice going, oh, who are you? What are you doing over here?
Exactly. So I almost felt like I had to write the book about being a multi-hyphenate first, and then I could go, right, you've just told everyone, now go and live it.
Yeah, like walking your own talk.
Yeah.
And so that book was due to launch in June, and I saw the date has been moved because of the current situation that we're in. How are you feeling about the launch of the book now?
I mean, it's a very strange time for publishing, and I feel really sorry for people who are launching their very, very first book, because it's such a special thing. And although in the grand scheme of things right now, you're not saving a life, I still think it means so much to you when you write a book, just because it takes so long. It's such a long process, and it really is a labor of love. And you spend so long trying to pitch it, and then you spend so long editing it, and then you spend so long kind of gearing up to promote it. So it is a shame that plans change and that you don't get to do the events and the live kind of festivals and things, because that's a huge part of why I love this job, is you get to be on your own for a bit and create something that you're proud of, and then you get to kind of connect and really speak to people. And that's, I think, the only reason why people write, is you want to connect with people. So to not be able to do that bit is a bit of a shame, but I just feel so lucky that my publication date has only changed by a month, because that's not a big deal, I don't think. Whereas some people have had to kind of completely change and push things back by a year. So I'm very lucky, but I also just wanted people to be in the loop, and I could have not told anyone and just been like, oh, they'll figure it out on Amazon. But I just wanted to be transparent and to everyone that supports me, really.
The situation has meant that people are being, I suppose, more open and sharing what's really going on behind the scenes for their businesses and their lives right now. There's a real kind of shift in how we're all connecting, I think. So
it's so
nice
true.
to kind of see
Everyone's being so much more open and honest, aren't they? because I, as you know, because you came into the studios, I record my podcast at Soho Radio, and I really love doing it there because I like inviting the guests and, you know, getting them a nice cup of coffee. And the podcast has evolved now that I can do that, and I want to do that. And so yesterday I put on Instagram this picture of just like my microphone on a stack of books in my bed, being like, today is podcast studio. And a part of me was like, oh, I don't know if I want to share kind of how basic I am. Basic in many ways, but it's like, I don't know, I just felt like I was going backwards, and I was almost like makeshift kind of DIY making it work. And I was like, well, we all are, and that's okay.
Yeah. Have you seen Gary Barlow, who's doing his crooner sessions on Facebook Live?
I haven't, but I've been really enjoying seeing like the inside of people's homes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, just I was talking about this when I interviewed James from Defected Records last week, and we were talking about, you know, when you see like somebody's couch or the picture they've got behind their kitchen table, it just kind of like makes you like them more, and this has opened up a bit more of that behind the scenes.
Totally.
And I think it's only a good thing.
Yeah, because I don't actually work from home normally that often. I only occasionally would like work from the kitchen table when I'm not at the Wing or at Soho Radio, or I like to kind of hop around and use cafes. So my desk at the moment is just so basic, like it's a little desk in the corner of my bedroom. And I kind of feel like a bit inadequate, because, you know, when you go on Instagram and see all these like amazing desk spaces, and I'm like, I don't have that.
No, I don't have that. Well, my house, well, me and my husband are kind of in this tag team swapping to different parts of the house. We're not being with where the children are, and if you're kind of like carving out your own little space within the chaos of the home.
And that's all you need, isn't it? You just need
exactly.
a little space.
A little space. So can we hear a bit more of behind the scenes about how you put the book club together then? So from that moment in bed that day, you went to printing, getting a logo made, printing bookmarks and things like that. Can you talk us through like the process of what happened?
Yes, and I will say it does sound a little bit manic, because I must say, when I get an idea, I am one of those people that I get really, really obsessed with it, and I get really into it, and like a child with like a new, I don't know, with a new collage or something, like I'm just like putting things into it and getting really addicted to it. So I actually had an Instagram account that was a bit dormant, and it didn't have many followers on, but it was just this account I set up ages ago, to do with the Multi-Hyphen Method. And then I was like, well, I'm not using this, like what could it be? I'm really not using it. And then I used that account, changed the name to the Hyphen Book Club, and I basically just put a placeholder logo up, asked kind of everyone on my main Instagram account, just at Emma Gannon UK, to follow it if they wanted to. And I hadn't really posted anything. I just said, I'm going to do a book club, so come and join, and you know, something will follow. And just got a huge reaction. I think I got like 3,000 new followers that day, and I think I just knew I was onto something, because if people want book recommendations more now than ever, then I absolutely want to be that person to recommend books and kind of create some sort of hub. And I must say, I'm really lucky, because my partner who I live with, he is a graphic designer, and it was literally one of those nights in front of Netflix with a glass of wine, being like, can you design me a logo?
Yeah, brilliant.
Which was really fun. And we just kind of came up with a little kind of branding kit, and then off and away, really. And I was inspired. I did a bit of research into like Reese Witherspoon's book club, and like looked at Oprah's book club, and Dawn O'Porter had one called Cold Water Books, and she hosted the book chats kind of with a series of grid posts asking different questions about each book. So I definitely took inspiration from other people as well.
So how long was it from the moment in bed to like then having it online?
Oh, like 3 hours.
3 hours is amazing. So the speed of it, it's like, okay, we're going to put it out there, get interest before we've worked out all the details. I think that's always really interesting, because you kind of, you know, you're forced to do it then and deliver on it. And I think that once you've got other people kind of cheering you on or saying, I want this, and you know that there's a demand, that really motivates you to go forward. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. And because I wanted to do the monthly book club pick so that everyone had basically this goal of reading a book a month, which I think is a good realistic goal, because I didn't want anyone to feel bad or feel like they weren't reading enough. Like, I didn't want anyone to feel kind of any sort of like shame about reading. I wanted it to be an easy goal. So I think that was good. And then I'm doing daily recommendations, which sounds like a lot, like doing an Instagram post every single day, but my book is full to the brim of books. And so it was almost that a case of I'm working with what I've already got.
So are they books, all the recommendations, are they books that you've read?
Yes, they're all books that I've read years ago. So I'm basically going through my bookshelves and just like picking out a book a day that I think is really great. And I mean, it's like basically endless content. So, and also it's really fun because it's really, really nice sharing book recommendations, because for me, reading isn't just entertainment. I've realized during this that during hard times, books genuinely kind of save me a bit. And we all turn to things during hard times. For me, it's books, and it genuinely is helping me kind of in my mental health. So yeah, it had a bit of a deeper meaning, I think, than just like, here's some books. I was a bit like, look, this is what I know how to do, and that is to like read when I'm feeling sad.
Yeah, it's like it's really coming from your heart. You know that it's almost like it's therapy for you at this point. And so because you're sharing that with that such deep insight, it's connecting with people that have that same need and desire. And the other thing about what you've said is that everything you had is kind of ready. It was ready to go. You had the library essentially, and it was just a case of kind of turning it on and acting on that insight. And what it's doing is it's serving you. It's also serving the authors that you're recommending, and then your future readers of Olive, and your audience that you've already got. So it kind of it's ticking every box, isn't it, for cheering people up?
Yeah, it is, weirdly, because it's a month old, and I'm like, yeah, I've always had a book club. It's like, I don't understand how I didn't do it before, but I don't know. I think we only kind of launch things when we're kind of ready to. And sometimes this happens when you sit on an idea for a while, and actually you wake up one morning and you just think, I'm going to do it, I'm going to give it a go, and there's no logic and there's no reasoning. I think we just have to wait sometimes for something to like want to hatch, which sounds a bit weird, but I don't know if you agree with that. But sometimes you just have to like wait.
That's exactly what I did with this podcast. I had the microphone for 3 years, and when we talked about it last August, you're like, you're going to do a podcast, right? And I'm like, yeah, I am. And then there was a whole load of reasons why it wasn't coming out, and then within the space of like 24 hours, I had my first episode from an idea to like, okay. Wow. And it just flowed, and it was that point of readiness for all of the things that all the ingredients kind of just came together, and the timing, and then it flowed. And I think because it wasn't flowing before, there was friction and tension, and so I'm really comfortable that I waited 3 years, because it wasn't the right time. So there's no regret that I didn't do it sooner. It's like, okay, but now it's like, I'm like, this is my project for now. And like, I'm focusing on my one-to-one coaching and this podcast as a creative project, and I'm not doing any other things. It's like there's only so much change you can make at once. So it's about kind of going deep into one project. So I feel like it's nice that this has been born as well at the same time.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because people, I think, say that quite a lot when you talk about writing books. People say to me, I'm really stuck. I can't get it out. And it sounds really cliche to kind of tell someone, it will start coming out at some point, and it's hard to predict when, but there'll become a point where it will have to come out of you. And I tried to write a novel about 3 years ago, and it was just so frustrating. I just could not get it out. It just was not happening. I would sit down you know, the days that I'd carved out for it, I would sit down at my laptop and try and do it, and honestly it was like getting blood out of a stone. Like, it just was not coming out. And then I wrote Olive, you know, in a matter of months. And I don't have an explanation for it other than sometimes you just have to wait.
Yeah, it's like that, trusting that when you're ready, it will happen. But
Yeah,
you just keeping that seed of an idea warm, being like, it's okay. And I think that's what's happening at the moment. Like, some people have pivoted and created some interesting projects, or their business has, you know, shifted quickly, and they're going because there was a sense of like readiness and all the ingredients were there. And for others, you know, we're still in a state of kind of like reflection, reset, collecting everything together before being, you know, ready to go. So I think there's people at this point in time, you know, during this pandemic, that might be feeling like pressure to create and do and deliver, and I think it's okay to give ourselves permission to say, you know, it doesn't have to be today. It will come in the future if it's not today.
Absolutely, totally. Because I guess another point is, I don't want anyone to think, oh, you should be, you know, starting a company during this pandemic. It's like, no, we really need to go easy on ourselves. And I'm actually taking next week off, just for my own brain, really, just to, you know, I booked it off anyway to have it as a holiday. Obviously the holiday's not happening, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep it in as a work-free week. And yeah, we can basically do whatever we need to do. And I did this tweet the other day that like went a bit weirdly viral about kind of not shaming each other for being productive or not productive. It's, you know, we all cope in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you feel the need to work and to spend some time creating, then do it, and switching off. Absolutely. And I think there's been a thing where people have felt that they had to work harder and be more productive, but actually this is a real gift at the moment to be able to go, you know what, I'm going to take a break and enjoy the pause and see what comes out of that reflection as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very lucky position to be in, to be able to pause, because I really understand if people are kind of like panicking. But I did a podcast episode with Selena Barker, who you might know, who's a life coach, and she said something which made me really think. She was like, when you look back on this time, do you want to have just busied your way through it and not been in it? And I was like, wow, that is really powerful, because I do think we should be like feeling the emotions of this, and we should be, you know, very grateful to the NHS, and we should be thinking about the world and the planet. And I kind of felt like, oh, I don't want to distract myself through this. I want to, you know, I want some time to reflect on it
and be present in it. And be part of it. I mean, I'm really enjoying my children right now because they're not at nursery, and we're having some amazing moments together that would not have happened. So I'm very much, and with my clients as well, is saying, what are the gifts that you can see in this of slowness and reflection,
and connection.
And I think one of the things that interested me about your project is that I think at the moment what's important for our mental health, and everybody's talking about, you know, pouring in like more joy, you know, and doing intentional things that bring us joy and make us happy and back to our kind of creative selves, whether that's dancing or reading or painting. And I think that the beautiful thing about the book club is that, I mean, I was looking on, I've ordered the book for May last night when I was preparing for this, and I'm really excited about reading, what's it called again? Pretending by Holly Bourne. I'm really excited about reading a fiction book that I never would have picked up until this point, because I'm always got my head in like a business book, and it's such a great opportunity to just engage with something.
I love that, because it's really funny that you said, you know, earlier about how sometimes we do things for ourselves and like also for other people, but I want to read a book a month. Like, I kind of did this book club so that I would hold myself accountable, because I just want to read. I want to read during this, and I have to read the novel, you know, like I can't run the book club and not read the book. So you know, we are in a very strange time, and I don't know about you, but I'm having the weirdest dreams. I'm not being able to, I can't focus. that easily at the moment. I am kind of hopping around all over the place and feeling highs and lows, and reading during this time might be quite hard for people. And so I kind of wanted to just set this challenge to do it, because there's so much research about how reading actually relaxes us. It physically relaxes our bodies when we read, and I just thought that's quite a nice way. And also the book club I did last week, for the first book, I was really nervous that no one would turn up.
Because what you're doing, you're having people read the book and then they're joining for an Instagram live to do the discussion.
So I'm doing a series of grid posts with lots of different questions, and we basically chat in the comments. But I'm going to be doing an Instagram live with the author of the book as well, just as a kind of a nice added thing.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really lovely. It felt like I was on the sofa with a few friends, and we were all chatting, and we all got really deep, and we were all sharing, and it felt like a lovely little cozy community. So yeah, I'm really excited about the next one as well.
I'm definitely going to read this book and join in May, because I think it's a bit of a creative challenge for me, and to carve out that time to sit with a book, because it's not something that I would normally do at this, with the busyness of everything. So I'm really excited about doing that. And so what have been your kind of high five moments about bringing out this book club?
Well, I, on a whim, which is the theme of this episode, is everything was just like throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. But I basically Googled, how do I print some bookmarks? And I printed 250 bookmarks with the Hyphen Book Club logo on, and then a little, call to action to follow it on Instagram. And they arrived the next day. And then I just had these bookmarks, and I was like, well, what am I going to do with them? Because I don't know, I don't have 250 books. So I basically put them on a website. I built a Shopify website in about 2 hours one evening, sold them for £2 each, or £5 for 3, and a personalised note card. And the money went to Mental Health UK.
That's amazing.
So I raised £300 for Mental Health UK, and all I had to do was put a bookmark in a envelope and put a stamp on it. It was pretty easy to do, and it just meant we were raising some money. So it was really lovely. And also, I don't know why, but I felt very connected to doing it. And I think it's because we're in a pandemic, we can't see anyone, we're on our own. So the most physical thing we can do is send someone some mail. So it was lovely.
That's really lovely. Like that, I remember seeing on your stories, like you're going to the post office with your parcels, and like that feeling of even though we're all connected digitally, that in real life feeling an envelope is quite exciting, isn't it? Going back to basics.
It is. I know, it's like when you get a note card with a handwritten card, it does mean something.
And so what have you found challenging through doing this project over the last couple of weeks?
I've got to say, I haven't really found it that challenging, because in my head I haven't, and I do this thing sometimes when I try and trick myself that something isn't work, because I don't think the Hyphen Book Club to me is worky, because I'm sort of just doing it for fun. And I ordered some wrapping paper samples, which are the backgrounds that you can see on the Instagram page. I've just been getting a bit creative with it, and just getting a bit crafty and taking pictures of silly bits of paper. And I feel like I'm just being a bit childlike with it. And I think when you're starting a side project, sometimes I think you have to kind of realize that you are doing it for fun, and don't try and turn it into this big business idea too early on. I mean, there's lots of things I could do with the Hyphen Book Club in the future. Like I could do events, or I could do all sorts, but I just think you gotta keep it small for a bit and enjoy it. And you did it for fun, so there's no point kind of putting pressure on yourself.
I think that's really, really important, isn't it? And it sounds like because you're getting so much joy from it and it's really kind of serving you creatively, you're just naturally thinking about the next step rather than getting too far ahead into the future. Because I think when we start kind of trying to be really strategic and thinking long-term vision, then you can get tied up in knots. You then start being a real perfectionist and kind of, it can cause you to procrastinate and like stop doing things. But just enjoying it, making it really easy. And that's how great things develop, isn't it?
It really is. And it's a weird thing when your hobby or your passion or your whatever starts earning you money, which essentially is kind of what I write about a lot, which is side projects or side hustles that end up basically turning into a mini business. And it is great and it is amazing and such a privilege to earn any sorts of money from a creative project you did for fun. But I think for me, I'm really trying to protect those things that I am doing for fun, if you know what I mean. Like this now is just something that I am doing for the sake of connecting with others, and if it just stays that way, I'm happy. But if it also grows into some sort of business, then I'm also happy. So I'm a month in, so
well, we can't wait to see it develop. So what's the Instagram handle, just so everyone can come and follow you?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's just at the Hyphen Book Club, and yeah, it's a lovely little place to be.
It's really, really brilliant. And so what do you think the lessons are for all of us from this going forward?
I think it's just planting the first seed whenever you feel ready. I think it's trying not to take things too seriously. I mean, I'm very lucky because I'm basically the opposite of a perfectionist. Like I'm almost too far the other way actually, which is like a detrimental thing where I'm like just launching things, when they're not ready. But there's something to be said for putting something out there kind of and just testing the waters. And you don't have to have the best logo in the world. You don't have to have a business plan. You don't have to have a strategy. Sometimes just go with the flow and see what people like and kind of work that way. And I also think just to try and see the fun side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's be scrappy and go before you're ready are absolutely key. It's basically before your brain talks you out of it, I think. Some of those.
Well, exactly. And also I think you can sort of go easy on yourself in terms of don't think that everyone's like gonna kind of judge you if you don't post on it for a bit. I think I'm really into it right now, but I also if I get a bit too busy after all of this goes away, hopefully when life goes back to normal, maybe I will kind of not do as many posts on there, and that's okay as well.
Yeah, so it's about being kind to yourself and managing your own expectations about what you're going to do with it to make it continue to be easy. Oh, thank you, Emma. It's so wonderful to have you on. And so we can't wait to read Olive when that comes out and be part of the May book club.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was kind of strange actually, like unpicking something that I've only just launched, very kind of slapdash. So it's really interesting. Thank you so much for having me.
What a lovely Slip Pivot session. Come and join Emma and I in her book club. Visit @the Book Club on Instagram. You can also pre-order a copy of Emma's upcoming novel, Olive. Check the show notes for all the links. You've been listening to the Slip Pivot Sessions with me, Liz Ward, the podcast for life's achievers and believers. I hope you've enjoyed listening as much as I've enjoyed making this episode. Please take a moment to rate and review on Apple or Google or wherever you get your podcasts. This helps me grow and bring you amazing guests. The show notes have all the links and references from today's session. And for your weekly dose of pivot inspiration, sign up to Slick Pivot Sunday, my weekly newsletter. Visit slickpivot.com. Until our next session together, stay nimble and remember, no pivot is ever slick.